Dano is unable to today, and we'll step into public comments. I do have one speaker card, and the clerk, do you have any other speaker cards? So, for public comment, I would like to call up to the podium Lori Condinas.
Speak on the microphone.
It doesn't sound. There it is.
Put it back where it was. Good evening, distinguished council. My name is Lori Condinas. I am the business rep from AFSCME, and I do represent the great workers of this city of commerce. I stand before you today to speak about the impeding layoffs. We all know that layoffs are very difficult. We have to remember that everyone that is slated to be laid off is connected to a family. The union has met and would like to convey to each of you the union's position. Every tool available under the terms of the MOU and policies should be made available to mitigate the impact of these layoffs. This includes bumping, and also includes transferring affected employees into any available position. These transfers will still result in pay cuts. However, these employees will be able to maintain full-time employment as well as full-time benefits for themselves and their families. There have been some meetings with the city manager. There have been positions that have been discussed and transfer opportunities that were discussed. We would like to make sure that these discussions continue and that these affected members are placed. Most of these employees have given years, some of them even decades, to the service of this city and its constituents. We are asking you as the employee union to please take care of these employees as they have taken care of you all. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to submit a public comment? See none, so public comment is now closed. We will now be recessing to closed session. Madam City Clerk, could you read out the items, please?
Item number 1, conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated potential litigation, 2 matters. Item number 2, Success Agency will confer with its real property negotiator with respect to real estate negotiations concerning proposed price and other terms relating to the Commerce Refuse to Energy Authority facility.
Okay, thank you. And we will now recess to closed session. Thank you.
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much. With 4 members of the City Council being present, the City Council met in closed session, discussed the following items. Item number 1, we discussed one matter. City staff made a presentation. City Council provided direction. No final reportable action was taken. With respect to item number 2, City staff made a presentation. City Council provided direction. No final reportable action was taken. And that concludes my report out of closed session. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. City Attorney. We will now officially begin the City Council meeting at 6:10 p.m. And Ms. City Clerk, can we do a roll call, please?
Councilmember Guimedo.
Here.
Councilmember Garcia.
Here.
Councilmember Ribur.
Here.
And Vice Mayor Lainez.
Here. Okay, and if the members of the public can please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Assistant Parks and Recreation Director Marquez and the invocation by Councilmember Argumedo.
Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. As we gather here tonight for this City Council meeting, let us pause to reflect on our shared purposes as a community. The City of Commerce, though small in size, is strong in industry, innovation, and resilience. Our businesses, neighborhoods, and families are connected by a common goal: to see our city thrive and provide opportunities for all who call it home. May this meeting be guided by respect, collaboration, and thoughtful consideration as we work together to make decisions that will benefit both the present and the future of commerce. Let us remember the people we serve, our residents, workers, and businesses, and keep their well-being at the heart of all we do. With that spirit of unity and commitment, let us begin this evening's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We will now move to appearances and presentations, and see a lot of members of the crowd here today. The first item is recognition to the Unplugged cast and crew, and if we could all just give them a round of applause, please. Tonight, we take a moment to recognize and celebrate the extraordinary efforts of our performing arts group. We honor their exceptional contributions to the Unplugged Performing Arts Company Senior Division in their performance in 13 Junior, and the Junior Division in the performance of The Little Mermaid Junior. Their talent in acting, singing, dancing, and storytelling shines as a powerful reflection of the creativity and dedication in our community. Through their commitment, artistry, and teamwork, they've helped bring live performances to life and inspired audiences of all ages. On behalf of the City Council and our residents, I want to extend my deepest gratitude to each performer, instructor, and supporter who has contributed to making the performing arts thrive in our city. You truly embody the spirit of community pride, and we are honored to acknowledge your efforts this evening. So thank you. And, I was at the Unplugged banquet last Saturday, and I really just want to thank the Guardians and the Teen Center staff and all of the instructors for their care, commitment, dedication, everything you've done to really make this program thrive. And, what I always tell people is performers are public servants, right? Whether it's Unplugged, Ballet Folklorico, dance, tap, and ballet, the joy and entertainment that you bring to our community is priceless, whether it's through your productions, right, like 13 Junior and The Little Mermaid, through your director showcases, through your performances at our city birthday, 4th of July, just all of our various city events. You're doing public service, and we really thank you for that. So thank you for everything that you do. Really appreciate it. And, I'd like to see if my colleagues would like have any words to say to Unplugged at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to congratulate you all. It's really been so amazing and such an honor to watch how this program has evolved from when now the Teen Center Supervisor Amber was performing to where it is now. This program, every single performance, it's like you can't wow me enough. Like I think like, oh my, this is it. Like this is the best, and then it's the next one's like, whoa, this one's the best, right? It's like you're always climbing up and up and up, and I think for me, right, as we see a decline in funding for the fine arts, like it's just so amazing that, and I thank my colleagues for continuing to support Unplugged, because we are the only city within our region that has a program like this. And I am so proud that you guys have represented not only the city, but your passion for the performing arts the way that you do. You guys are like top notch, and I cannot wait to see what you all do with this skill in the future. So congratulations. I've had such an honor to come watch many of your performances. Unfortunately, I was unable to watch the last one, but I try to go to every single one of them because you guys are just super, super amazing. Your vocals have been on point. Some of you I've watched from the beginning to where you're at now, and it's just amazing to see how you have evolved, whether it was with your vocals or your performance. So congratulations to the parents. Thank you for all that you do. I know that for a lot of you, it's not just dropping off your kids at the teen center. You're helping with makeup and costumes and feeding these kids, and everything that you do, it does not go unnoticed. So thank you all again to the teen center staff, to the director. No, that's not what performance supervisor. I don't know what it's called. Sorry, director, coordinator. Thank you for the work that you're doing, and I'm just really proud of all of you guys. So thank you so much for representing the city so well and for really pouring into your talent. Thank you.
Councilwoman?
I just want to say congratulations for a job well done. It's really hard. I know it's really hard to get out there and perform, and it makes you guys very comfortable. It'll help you in the future when you speak in public. I know singing and dancing at the same time is kind of hard. I know it's hard for me. So congratulations for everything, and Amber, keep up the good work. And that's it. Congratulations.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to just extend our sincere thanks and gratitude to all of you for the great job you've done. I've had the honor and pleasure, of course, of being here on the City Council for many years, and I happened to be there when we decided that, what do we do? We had a new senior center. Prior to it being a teen center, it was the senior center. And we built the new one here, and we relocated our seniors, and of course, we were left with the decision on what are we going to do, and the concept and idea came of, hey, let's build a teen center for our teens in our community. And I can just tell you that we're extremely proud of what it's become, all of the work that you've all put into, what you've become for our community here. Amber, I know that you and your sisters were a big part of the program back then, in the early days, the dance team, and to see you now heading this program over there is just, it's awesome. It's beautiful. It's great. You've done a terrific job, and we congratulate you and the great job that you've done in helping our kids become top-notch performers, as already mentioned. And we're extremely proud of all of you. We're very proud of you, and we look forward to what you do in the future. I personally look forward to seeing you performing on Broadway one of these days, one of you in the future. I think one of you will be there. I've enjoyed the many events that I've attended there, and so have many of the parents. So thank you to all of the parents who have, believed in the program that we have here, and to all of the folks that have contributed so much time to making it what it is today. So again, congratulations, and well-deserved. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would be remiss to not recognize our performing arts specialist, Sarah Fenton, who's stepped in, I think about a year ago and really just hit the ground running. So I think the productions have been great. I think there was a great foundation laid, with Amber and, everything that's been done in the years past. But with Sarah and, of course, our instructors, Nairi Rodriguez and Abigail Rosas, right? Commerce has a lot of talent, right? It's apparent, we do. But it takes good teachers, good mentorship to really draw that out. So thank you for all the work that you've done. And of course, the actors, keep shining, right? You guys are stars, so keep doing it. I think you all got certificates, so if you would do me the honor of maybe standing up and coming up front to take a picture with the city council, I would really love that.
Parents, would you like to take any photos?
I'll be the first.
Smile, Jesse.
Thank you. Now we just want to do Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. Madam City Clerk, do we have any public comment cards?
No cards.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who would like to come up and submit public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none. So we'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. We have items 2 through 11. I will either entertain a motion, or does anyone want to pull any items at this time?
If there's no comments or questions or no items that need to be pulled, I would move to approve the items under consent.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. So now we'll move on to scheduled matters. We have a presentation and an update from the Sheriff's Department of Public Safety in our beloved City of Commerce.
Good afternoon, Council. Hope everybody's been having a good day today. Sergeant Sergio Jimenez with your Public Safety for the month of August. Next slide, please. Okay, the following graph is going to compare our statistics compared to previous months of this year. And again, the stats that I'm going to read off to you will be for the month of July. Okay, starting with assaults, we have 9 recorded in July. Robbery total, we're going to have 4. Burglary, 12. Theft, we have a total of 64. Auto theft, 25. And arson, 1. And now I'm going to give you the statistics compared to last year, July. For this month, again, we're going to have 9 assaults compared to last year. July was 13. Robbery total for this month is going to be 4. Last year, this month is going to be 6. This month, 12. Last year, 9. For burglary, theft, it's going to be 64 this month. Last year, this month, 54. Auto theft, we have 25 this month. 32 last year, 1 arson report this month, and none last year. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide is going to be your comparables compared to our neighboring cities. Again, please take note, the size of each city. Commerce, 6.5 square miles with a population of 12,000 roughly. Cudahy is at 1.2 square miles, population of 22,000. Maywood, 1.2 square miles, 24,000 residents. East LA is going to be 7.4 miles, square miles, and population is going to be 118,000. Okay, for Commerce, we're going to have 9 assaults compared to Cudahy's 6, compared to Maywood's 11, East LA's 40. Commerce had 4 robberies, Cudahy had 2, Maywood had 6, East LA had 15. Burglary, we had 12, Cudahy had 4, Maywood had 1, East LA had 15. Other theft, 64, Cudahy 8, Maywood 8, East LA 77. Auto theft, we had 25, Cudahy had 15, Maywood had 14, East LA had 63, and we had the 1 arson to report, Cudahy had 0, Maywood had 1, and East LA had 0. Next slide. This is going to be your Commerce Red stats for the month of July. 34 felony arrests and 53 misdemeanors. Okay, this is going to be your activity for your SAO deputies, Special Assignment Office. For July 2025, City of Commerce Special Assignment Deputies conducted community-oriented policing of the city's businesses and neighborhoods. SAO deputies made themselves available to answer any questions or concerns related to federal police activity. August 2025. You go to the next page, Kevin, please. I am pleased to announce that Deputy Josh Clark is now serving the City of Commerce as a motor traffic enforcement deputy. His primary responsibilities will include traffic enforcement, traffic collision investigation, special traffic enforcement operations, and community engagement. Since his arrival, Deputy Clark is averaging between 25 and 30 citations a day. These citations include speeding, failing to stop at a stop sign, and distracted driving, cell phone. Deputy Clark is committed to keeping our roads safe and improving traffic safety in the City of Commerce. Please keep an eye out for Deputy Clark, since he does a really great job of hiding. Next slide, please. I'm sure a lot of you can recognize that intersection there, but he is going to be in the area of City Hall, and he's going to be patrolling the areas of our schools. So just a fair warning to our residents and any motorists who are in the City of Commerce. Next slide. Okay, August 2nd, 2025, SEO deputies participate in the backpack giveaway at Bristol Park. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, and August 12th, 2025, SEO deputies assisted City of Commerce homeless team at Salcedo along with Ocean Blue Team cleanup. Several sites cleaned and resources extended to any individuals encountered in these areas. This is 7210 Dominion Circle. This is before and after. Next slide. Union Pacific Railroad across from 5821 Randolph Street, before and after. Next slide. 710 Freeway at 4721 East Washington. Next slide. Again, Union Pacific Railroad near 7316 East Gage, before and after. Next slide. And this is going to be our National Night Out. And Council, if you allow me to, I would like to play a video for you guys.
Hello folks, my name is George Lopez. I'm the Code Enforcement Officer here for the City of Commerce. My job is to keep the city safe and address any issues that the city might have. I'm here at the City of Commerce National Night Out. I'm hoping to be able to meet a lot of you folks, so please come down. Hope to see you soon.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and have the opportunity to connect with all of our community related to National Night Out and basically bring about awareness. And it's all about talking about public safety in our community and promoting public safety in our community. And our city just really goes all out when it comes to public safety, and we're really pleased and happy to have that partnership with all of our law enforcement partners. So thank you, everybody, and hope you have a good time.
Hi, welcome to National Night Out 2025. This evening is dedicated to the service that we provide for our community and getting to know your law enforcement.
It's incredibly important for families and people in our neighborhood to come to events like these, National Night Out. The goal is to promote a healthier, stronger, and safer City of Commerce. It's really important for all of us to take this opportunity to talk to our law enforcement officials, our civic leaders, and let us know what's going on our streets. We want to know what's going on so that we can work to build a healthier and safer City of Commerce for all of us to enjoy.
This is my Senior Citizens Commissioner, Gloria Cobian. This is a night where the whole community comes out. There's demonstrations, a helicopter landed in the City of Commerce. There's booths, food, wonderful event. Thank you to the staff and to Rebecca Longoria for putting this together. And we're just happy to be here. Thank you to all of our safety personnel.
What I enjoy the most is all the community getting together and able to talk to the sheriffs here. We met the chief, we have fire department, first responders. What I enjoyed too is that we had the Star Wars crew here. We had Mandalorian, stormtroopers. I'm excited to continue to have these events. There's so much more to do here with community. Thank you, staff. Thank you, community. Thank you, first responders. I appreciate everything you guys do for us.
And on behalf of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, specifically East LA Sheriff Station, we want to extend our heartfelt appreciation to the mayor, city council, and public safety of the City of Commerce for your valued participation in this year's National Night Out. Your presence and continued support exemplify your deep commitment to building stronger, safer neighborhoods through meaningful community engagement. Thank you. Really appreciate you. Any questions?
Thank you, Sergeant Jimenez. Does the council have any questions or comments?
Just thank you for the great work you guys are doing out there. We really appreciate everything you do every day that you go out there, and just all the activities that you guys are involved in. So thank you. And please thank our deputy. I saw him and met him personally this morning. I was on the, no, I'm just kidding. I'm joking, but I did see him out there dropping off the kids, and it's good to see him out there.
Good.
Thank you, council member. I haven't met Deputy Clark, and I don't want to meet him, right? But I will say that I think it is important, and it's great that we do have a motor patrol out there, just because, as many of you know, we've had some really high-speed collisions over the past several weeks, right? And people are just flying down Washington, flying down Eastern, and I think, this is all in an effort not necessarily to just cite people, right? But it's all in the spirit of just making sure that we avoid those collisions, right? And we create a culture of just making sure that we follow the law and we're driving through in a safe and, steady manner. So thank you, Sergeant, for all that you do. Thank your team for the great work, and be safe out there.
Good. Okay.
Okay, so now we'll move on to item number 13, which is an update on DTSC Exide cleanup and grass planting. And we have our Director of Public Works, Shahid Abbas.
Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, before we begin, so this is a follow-up item essentially to a discussion we had 2 weeks ago as relates to all of the excise removal of contaminated soil and replacement of what ultimately the City Council determined was not satisfactory to the residents of this community. And so I want to commend Public Works for the work that they've done and get into this point today. So he'll update you on the new set of plans, which still involves the City of Commerce taking the lead in watering all of the greenery.
Thank you, City Manager. Thank you, Vice Mayor, and good evening, Vice Mayor and the Council. This is Shahid Abbas, Director of Public Works. Today, staff is updating the Council on the ongoing DTSC Parkway remediation project in the Bristow and Bandini neighborhoods. And I have with me today from California Environmental Protection Agency, Mr. Mehdi Betahar, he's Assistant Deputy Director, and Mr. Stephen Harari, he is the branch chief. Both gentlemen are overseeing the ongoing remediation project. During the last meeting, Council expressed concern that parkways are not properly restored, resulting in dirt and barren land after the remediation is completed. Staff worked with Mr. Bethar and Mr. Harari to identify a more sustainable approach to restoration. The DTS has now agreed to restore all parkways in kind by placing sod in areas that previously had established grass and hydroseed only at locations that were without grass. With this, I shall invite Mr. Betahar to speak about the project. Please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Where would I start? Maybe by thanking the honorable members of this council, because this project has started way before we all joined, right? 2017, the City of Commerce was really the pioneer in welcoming us and welcoming this project. Non-desirable project to begin with, because we're talking about a poison that is affecting a lot of families. I don't want to start talking about numbers of homes cleaned up or numbers of parkways cleaned up. Nonetheless, we're here today, and I want to reassure you that the relationship that we built, that the state has built with the City of Commerce, has not changed. Our commitment is unwavered. We were not funded to do any landscaping to begin with, but again, when I had a chance to talk personally with Mr. Abbas, I reiterated this message. There is nothing that can jeopardize the relationship that we built. So we have made the commitment to go back, although it's difficult because we don't have a lot of budget at this point, as you guys know. But we are going to be restoring properties that initially had grass in place and hydroseed those that didn't have anything, that was bare soil, as good gesture. So now we have to do a better job in communicating to the owners that whether it's hydroseed or grass, you need to water it. A plant does not go or remain green without any type of water. So that's probably where I would like to reach out to this council and see if there's a way that you guys can invite the owners to take care of this. These areas are right in front of their homes. It is a shared responsibilities, but we have done our very best. We have gone way beyond what we could as far as budget. And if you ask me, was it worth it? Definitely, because the relationship we have built is a long-term relationship, and we want to keep it that way. We're still here for the homes, as you know. I wanted also to thank you as we're here for the nice note that you have written for the project. We have achieved some major milestone, and we continue to cleaning up these homes. What are we, like 1,000 homes in the City of Commerce, maybe give or take? But, there are a lot of properties that were cleaned up. And think about it this way. Overall, in the City of Commerce, the level of leads have dropped now below 200 parts per million. We started with thousands. So you're seeing now the difference that this project has brought to many, many families. Across the 7 jurisdictions that we are working on, we're talking about between 100 and 200,000 people living in this area that have been affected. So imagine the results today. I'm happy to stand in front of you, maybe years after the project started, but we do have something to show for. And same goes for the Parkway. We are doing our very best to complete the Parkway, hopefully before the end of the year. So we are really rushing. And again, we will commit to the landscaping that we have discussed with Mr. Abbas here. And that's all I have for you tonight. But again, thank you, everyone. Thank you. We appreciate that partnership.
Thank you. Does the council have any comments?
I do.
Councilmember Arguello.
Thank you to our director, Mr. Voss, and to you and your colleague who are here on behalf of this item here. This is very important to the community. I can tell you that, I recently, I was one of the members that had the sod replaced on my existing within the property. And all of that went well. They did a great job. The folks that were there were very responsible. They took care of a couple of little items that I had that, things are broken. And, you got a lot of equipment that comes in and does all the work. But overall, they handled everything. They took care of everything. I was very happy with it. The only problem was that I had the same problem as everybody else with the Parkway. Obviously, I did have sod throughout, and to see what they replaced it is like now I've got basically a place for a lot of dogs to come or cats to kind of take care of their business. So I'm really happy that you guys are going back to address some of the homes that did have sod. And part of my question was, how are you going to determine that? You took before and after pictures, I take it?
We did.
Okay,
we did.
good.
The work
good.
that we do, whether it's a private property, and we have dozens of those, thousands of those, or the parkways, we do have pictures documenting the pre and after. So
okay. Well, good. I'm look forward to it, and I know that a lot of people in the community will be very pleased and happy with that. And I think that's a reasonable way to move forward, I think. What's the amount of time? Because, I'm watering the hydro seeding, and I'm like, I'm not seeing no response,
Yeah.
So I'm like, how long does it take?
Well, it depends. On the hydro seed, we have, I'm going to give you one example, not name the property itself, but there is a property in LA that has 8 city blocks, so that's large. We did hydro seed, and the grass was fully grown within 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
But that requires the watering. If you stop watering, again, everything will dry and you go back to where you started.
Okay, all right.
Councilwoman Rebollo?
Hi there. Thank you so much for the presentation. When you say watering is required, can you explain what is the ideal watering that is required for hydro seed to grow in the 3 weeks? That means how many times do they water that grass?
I believe it's 2 to 3 times, but yeah, 2 to 3 times. I get confirmation.
day? 2 to 3 times a day?
Per day, yeah. And what we have done is actually leave a brochure that explains all the steps that are necessary with each of these homeowners, so they know the frequency of watering and how much is enough in a sense. So we're leaving documents behind.
And that was the case in my situation, so we did get that information, so.
Okay.
I'm not questioning that. I think, we're the ones that get the phone calls, right? And I know every single one of us, has had 1 or 2 phone calls from residents in that area, right? Questioning, why isn't my grass growing? The dirt is everywhere. So what you're saying is the only reason the grass wouldn't have grown is if someone wasn't watering it 2 to 3 times a day. That's the only reason.
That is correct. That is correct. And please don't feel that I'm being sarcastic, but we even had some homeowners that ask us whether they need to water the grass after we put the sod in place. So it's up to us to do better with the information. We think sometimes that we have done enough, but when we start seeing some complaints, we are your partners. We want to hear about these complaints, so we address them directly in the field. We've had a discussion as early as this afternoon. I think we're going to readjust a little bit our communication style. Obviously, these brochures are not enough. Obviously, even the conversations directly are not enough. So we're trying to see if there is a need to organize some type of open house where we invite people to come in, ask the questions, respond to their need, just like the question you asked me now about the frequency of watering. So we are discussing this. It's in the works, and we're adapting our communication style based on the feedback we're receiving either from the elected officials or from the owners themselves.
And when you guys leave the communication, is it always with just the homeowner? Is it with the tenant, or is it with both? Because I remember I sat on the board way back when for DTSC, right? And one of the issues was that a lot of the communication was only done to the homeowners because they're the ones that allow the access, right? Because it's very meticulous and it is something that, right?
Yeah.
So as I remember back into those conversations, and I was seeing that, we're having these issues, I started to think, well, what does your communication look like?
Yeah, very good things have happened in the last 3 years, including direct communications with tenants. So I'm going to call them residents, regardless of their status. For instance, for the homes, when it comes to relocation, we're not making a difference between owners and tenants. We relocate the residents. So the same here, I'm assuming we knock at the door and whomever opens the door receives those instructions. But I want to feel that it's not enough, right? People are busy, they hear us 5 minutes and they forget because it's time to pick up the kids or do something else. So we have to add one layer of communication. That's why we're discussing what else can we do on top of everything we have done. And it's not coming, again, at a high price to us. We really, really value the relationship we have built with you guys. We want to work with you. When you receive these comments or these complaints, we're happy to hear from them directly and see how we can accommodate these different individual owners or tenants or residents. But we're here to work with you because we're here also to stay. We still have a lot of homes to complete.
Well, thank you so much. I do appreciate your comments and the work. Again, I think for me, right, I'm not trying to be combative or, it's just we're the ones that get the phone calls, right?
Absolutely.
But if you want me to direct them to you, I could do that too. But yeah, I understand. I understand the communication. And I guess my last question is: when there is a person that only speaks Spanish, are you also accommodating translators?
We do. We do have translators. In fact, what we have done this year is we have a system online that captures all the feedback, including complaints, and we are responding to those within 48 hours. So we're going to leave this with your Public Works, with the link where people can go directly and file whatever grievance they have, or even feedback is sometimes good. And we'll be very happy to answer all of those in a timely manner.
Thank you so much.
For those who don't have the ability to go online, because we have a population that's quite old in certain areas, we have the direct line. If we need to send someone in person, knock at the door and talk to them, even in Spanish, we do have that capability.
That was going to be my last question, is what are we doing with the residents and our senior residents?
Yeah, we have different ways to reach out to everybody. Phone, direct contact, emails, you name it. We have tried to exhaust every possibility. But again, sometimes we miss one or two, and that's where we need to adapt and see how best we can do our outreach.
Okay, thank you so much. And thank you for
Absolutely,
being
thank you.
receptive to changing the model. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Councilwoman Garcia?
Hi. I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you for sharing the resources with us and the residents so that they're available so they can come out and speak or just look at the information. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, sir.
Mehdi Betahar.
Betahar?
Yes.
Mr. Betahar, thank you for coming over today. I do want to thank our city manager, Hernandez, and our director of public works, Shahid Abbas, for taking our concerns and, just reaching out and, bringing this item back today. And thank you all for coming out. I don't think every city's getting, a sod replacement, right? I actually spoke to somebody who's working on the field, and I think we're the only city that's doing that. So I really want to thank our staff for just the effort that was put there to make this happen. I think it is important. As far as outreach, I think you had spoken about, is there a way where you were inviting us, right, to maybe partner with you in that communication? And I think we should, right? Maybe it's a follow-up after you've already distributed your flyer or spoken to somebody, but I think a follow-up maybe, 5 days afterwards, a week after would probably be worthwhile, potentially putting something on our social media. So, Mr. City Manager, if we can maybe think of a way where we could supplement the outreach efforts of DTSC just to ensure that our residents are acting, and, I'd really like to see that, and I'm sure my colleagues would as well.
Yes, Vice Mayor, that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, great. Alrighty, well, thank you for, your comments and presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And as far as this item, this is recommended as a receive and file, so I don't think that needs a motion. So I think we can move forward to the next item. Okay, next item would be item number 14, which is the purchase of 25 bus shelters and accessories for transit operations.
Vice Mayor, Member City Council, this is also essentially a follow-up item. The City Council wished to incorporate either more branding or art-specific, or to the staff has various options for you, in addition to 2 recommendations on how to move forward once we've discussed all the various options. Go ahead, Chair.
Good evening, Vice Mayor, Council. Claude McFerguson, Director of Transportation. Here to discuss, as our city manager mentioned, the next steps regarding the bus shelter replacement project. Just to briefly recap, the current grant we received replaces 25 bus shelters throughout the city. The total budget is a little over $712K. Branding option, this is a follow-up for council had wanted to discuss. As you can see, there are various options available as far as color changes. We submitted a color coordination in the packet for you can see the various colors. You can change at any point. Those are no additional cost. Glass artwork, which I show you some samples of that in the presentation. That is an additional cost. That's about $7,000 per shelter. Then they also have a perforated powder coat one available as well. That's around $3,000. I'll give you more insight on what that looks like. And then the least expensive would be the polycarbonate, where the city pretty much commissions or selects an artist to do the artwork, and then we do the installation in-house. The color that we had selected was the emerald green, which you see on the screen. However, if the council wanted to go another direction, those colors are available. We could also just put that selection at the time we put in the order. Those are the various colors. There's a litany of colors to choose from. We just tried to get the one closer to the Commerce colors, but it's council discretion. They wanted to change that. They let us know we can move forward and put that in with the order. And again, that's no additional cost. They do have glass branding available as well, as I mentioned with the 7K. Let's kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. You can put in a city logo. You can go to detail the city would like. That is an additional cost. I'll just give you some samples of what it looks like. In turn, we would submit the artwork over to the manufacturing company, and they would produce that. The perforated powder coating where they bake the color in, as you can see the one to the left. Things you have to keep in mind on these type of shelters, it's all about the angle and how it sit as well. Because if it's put at a wrong angle, you don't really get the true color. Like for example, if you look at the one on the left, that's a direct vision. You can see is more popping. The one to the right is a similar shelter, but if you notice at a different angle, it doesn't seem as vibrant because of the holes are perforated through the screen. So you got to keep that in mind too as far as the placement. But that is available as well. That's $3,000 per shelter. Now the most least expensive is the polycarbonate panels. That's where the city hires or commission their own artists. They issue the city the panels, they do the actual artwork, and then we take the artwork and then install that in-house through the shelter. Again, that's no additional cost. The only cost would be the city is to hire and get the artists to do the work, and that's available as well. The recommendation this evening is to approve the purchase to move forward with the 25 bus shelters. Then if the city wants to do any other branding option, just identify which one or which area they would like to proceed, and just identify a different funding source to cover the branding options, and we can execute the change order at council's wish.
So for the city council to consider if there's any preference to the type of options proposed. And then again, for the options is what we're recommending is either A, absorb the extra costs by lowering the amount of buses that we essentially change, or B, to find out what a different resource for the Art in Public Places or some other resource to basically do 25 buses and then enhance with the artwork that we want to do. Where there's extra costs. Some of these have no cost, some do. But essentially, one, decide if any of these is what the vision the city council has, and two, whether we do more or less than 25 bus stops.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. City Manager, and thank you, Claude, for that presentation. At this time, I'll ask my colleagues if they have any questions or comments. Councilwoman Rebollo.
Claude, do we have a shelter in front of the senior apartments on, is it Gage?
Emile, the Telecu?
No,
Or is it on Pacific?
No, I remember we tried to get one installed there, but we couldn't get authorization from the property owners. I remember that side.
Oh, so we didn't install bus shelter?
No, we decided somewhere to sit, but not a full shelter like in some of the other areas, because
got
the
it.
owner said it would go over some of their property.
So there's
leaseways.
only a bench, there's no
I believe
shade.
so, yeah.
So it's because it's on their property?
Something with the right of way. When we met with the owners back then, when we did this original phase existing in place, they didn't want to do a shelter, but we did get calls for individuals still wanting to bench this on there, because we do pick up a lot of people over there. Well, I wouldn't say a lot, but frequently at that particular location. We can go back and try to reach out to them again if they want to reconsider. We can look at it at that point.
Sorry, I'm trying to understand. So when we install these bus shelters, they're not on the public right of way?
It was something with the owner. We had the one at the Telecu didn't want to do it.
But it's their property or we have the?
I believe it was their property when we went over to that particular location.
Are we able to install it on the public right of way?
Yes, we can install it on city
Why
property.
don't we
The
just do
challenges that we have is getting them to meet the ADA requirements, because the streets are a little narrow. That's where it gets a little tricky where we had to put in benches because you still have to leave accessibility for wheelchairs to go back and through on that sidewalk. That's one of the issues.
So the one that was there before that was removed, was that on the Teleco property or was that on the city right away?
I would have to verify to be specific.
Can you check on that? Because
Yeah.
remember, there was one there that was removed.
Oh, you talking the one on Gage?
Yeah, and then that's why we replaced it again. We brought it back.
Right.
So I'm trying to understand. Because I didn't see it on the list here, and I mean, that would be one of the areas where we definitely need shade if it's for servicing our senior population.
We could look at that one. I mean, with the locations, we can move those around because it doesn't change the cost of the project. So if you want us to switch and move one to that location, if we can get authorization, we can do that.
Is the bus, I'm sorry, the bus stop is on Emil and Pacific Gage and Pacific or Gage and Emil?
To be honest, I would have to look, to be honest. I don't want to give you the wrong answer. I'm not sure specifically, but I do recall meeting with them at that location. I can verify and get back with you what's there. And if you want us to switch and put one at that particular location?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a whole senior complex right there.
Okay. We'll reach back out to them and follow up.
And then just my comment, my general comment for me, but I will go number. I like black. I think black is elegant. But whatever the majority decides, my preference is the color black. I know that we have a beautiful hunter green. I don't know that I don't know. I'm looking at the pictures, and for all the shelters to be green, I don't know. I liked when it was changed to color black, but I will roll with whatever the majority decides. And again, I just want to reiterate, personally, I don't like that it's just seated for 3 people. Again, because there's some bus stops where we have huge number of students that get on or people waiting for buses. Not every bus stop, uses that much, but I think for the ones especially where you see the students, like to only have 3 spots for them to sit down, and I completely understand that it's designed to make sure that the transient population is not sitting on those benches, but like if you give me like what outweighs for me, like if I'm okay with somebody that is unhoused laying their head on a bench, for me it's not the biggest issue if we're removing spots for people to sit down, but that's just me, and I just wanted to make that general. But whatever. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councilwoman. Anyone else with any comments?
Just following up on that same line there, did we address the issue over on the other side? I mean, I remember this discussion, and I know that you mentioned on Emil and Gage, but the other senior center over on Talaku. I know we have it on the corner, I think it is, over on the entrance to Veteran Park. Is that right?
Correct.
So that's where that was decided to be placed, but yet we have our seniors that walk from the senior center all the way over to the corner, which for them can be a long ways. Is there any way we can relocate that closer to the facility?
We could, but then that's going to incur more construction costs, which we would just decrease the amount of shelter we can get installed. We can do whatever council like. It just would minimize the amount of shelter we have available to distribute throughout the city.
All right. And you mentioned earlier that you've had discussions with the owners related to the one over on the other end, and what were their reasons for not wanting a shelter there?
Could we pick up on Dollarite patrons over there as well? And we requested areas to sit. When we went over there to speak with them as a professional courtesy, which we do every time we're going to install a shelter in front of a business or residence, but they wasn't comfortable with it. They didn't want us to install it for that particular reason. The most they wanted to do was a bench at that particular time. We can revisit it again, see if they'll allow it, but at that time they didn't want us to do it. That's why we ended up going with the smaller bench.
Yeah, if you don't mind, and I know that it was mentioned already, and hopefully you can report back on, a follow-up on that. We definitely would like to see them. I definitely would like to see them closer to the senior centers. They're the big, heavy users of these bus stops anyways. And if we put them close to where where they can get to them easily, I think makes a lot more sense. So,
I can meet with them, also take some pictures while we're over there as well, and can report back.
yeah, and if we can find, somewhere where it would be, just easier for them to get to, that's all. Because, just Gage in itself is a very difficult street with the traffic, and there's a lot of speeding there. So I think if it's right outside there, the area where they can, get on and get off the bus, I think it makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
And as far as the colors, I'm okay with the green or the black. I'm fine with it. So whatever the rest of the council wants to go with, I'm okay with that. Yeah, I think the green looks fine. The black looks good too. So I don't have an issue with either one.
Great comments. Thank you for that, Councilmember. Councilwoman Garcia?
Hello, Mr. McPherson. Yes, if we can really help the seniors out, that'd be great. And shading's always important, we don't want any heat exhaustion, so it'd be great for them to have the shading and the bench. For me, I have a question regarding, I think it's picture number 2. Is that a plexiglass or is that glass?
This one right here?
The bench, they're the best benches.
This one right here?
No. Keep going next.
Yeah, that's a glass.
Will we install glass or would it be
It's a
would it be
glass,
safer
but they're
to?
covered like with a plexiglass, a thin plexiglass.
Okay.
You know,
So
this
this
one
one-
the same, but this one, here it's the same way. Once the artists do the work on the panel, then we put a small plexiglass on both sides to secure it in the shelter.
Okay. For me, the color, I would choose the emerald green because it would make our city stand out. That's our color. I love black. I think it's very elegant, but when you go to other cities, you can determine the other city by the benches. Like there's one nearby us that's blue. So I think the emerald green would be great. That's for me, my vote. Thank you, Mr. Franklin.
Okay, thank you for your comments, Councilwoman. Claude, again, thank you for the presentation. So I know this item is something that came before us 2 weeks ago, and this being grant funded, what's the timing, like, as far as a deadline and when we have to make a decision by?
It's kind of like ASAP with the federal funding. Leave room for them to get involved in reallocating the funds. So what I would ask is allow us to at least execute the grant to move forward as far as the procurement, and we can make any changes or modifications as far as the branding at that point.
Yeah, so what I would recommend is you move forward approval. We can come back with concepts based on the comments made tonight, right, that we can finalize with the contractor. I guess the only decision that's important to our conversation is we're talking keeping 25 and dedicating other monies for the branding, or making it all work within the grant. And I'm leaning towards option A because I think we have this grant that basically pays for most of them. Plus, I'm not 100% sure that depending on the selection the city council makes, the grant would cover anyway. And so I think if you say you're comfortable moving forward, we can prepare some proposed designs, whether it's one or more that the council wants to move forward with, and then we'll finalize those. But as far as procuring the contract and getting the bones of these bus stops are going to be essentially the same, right? It's just what we do to make it more of a branding and or beautification or artwork. But we can do that as we go. As far as the bench, is there an opportunity to change that?
Yeah, I'm gonna go over there tomorrow, take a look over there and see if we can reach out with them and get their approval, and I'll take photos and I'll send you a follow-up.
So we'll bring those options back to the city council too, along with the proposed design. I think we can move forward with your approval and then really narrow down what it is that we're talking. And I guess we'll provide some options based on the comments made tonight, and the city council can say, this is what I want them all to look like, or this section of the city needs to look like, whatever you decide. But we are recommending that you approve the contract tonight, and we come back with some proposed design alternatives.
Okay, thank you for that. And I think that's a good recommendation. That's kind of where I was thinking, right? You know, at the end of the day, I think we do want at least 25 bus shelters, right? We do want to renew them. And I think it's a great opportunity. I wholeheartedly agree with my colleagues' comments, right? Anything we can do to make our seniors' lives easier, especially on a main street like Gage, I think we have to take it. But I think that's something that maybe we have to treat as separate, right? You know, because there's a couple of things that go with it. There's feasibility, right? You talked about, hey, the property owner didn't allow it. Well, why wouldn't they? I would think that's a public right of way, right? So I think we need to understand what that looks like. We also need to know what the cost would be, right? We don't have a cost assessment, right? So I think we also need to understand that as well. So I think we should come back, right, with some options on how we could service those two locations that the councilman here and the councilwoman over there did mention, just because it's important, right? We just had the 2 hottest weeks of the year, right? And I empathize with anyone who had to wait at those stops, right, without shade. There's not a lot of trees on Gage. I don't think there's any, right?
Right.
So it's tough, right? But for me, I think city branding is important if we can take an opportunity. The extent of which, you know, that can be debated. I like the green, you know, similar to the Councilwoman Garcia's point, right? You know, I'd like for people to drive into Commerce and know that it's Commerce, right? And green is a color that is, you know, reflective of our city. So I don't know what the color is that you showed in the staff report. I don't know if that was hunter green or emerald green.
No,
I like the dark green.
It's emerald.
Yeah.
So the one on the presentation, emerald green, gives you better visualization of the color. It's the emerald green. It's 2 different ones. If you look on the colors, it's an emerald green and it's like a leaf green or something like
Hunter
that.
green.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If we're gonna go with green, I think we need to do the hunter green.
I agree. I think the darker color, just so it's a little muted, but still green and still reflects our city. I think we should include our city name, whether that's an option that can be included with the cost or is something that we have to do after the fact. I think Greg had talked about, you know, doing some modifications after the fact. I think that's okay. I don't know if you looked into the city seal and metal discs.
Anything is possible, and it doesn't change the framework for the shelter. There's things that we can add on.
Anything is possible, but is that an option that we explored with this presentation here?
I thought that was something that you guys were supposed to read back to us, was what the cost was gonna be with the option of the city seal. If I remember correctly, that's
So
what we talked about last meeting.
So you saw a couple of the design options that were basically the city seal only, right? I think in any scenario, you can incorporate the city name and the city seal, whether even the panel artwork, you can still incorporate that. So again, I think it's important that you have the discussion that you're having so that we can kind of take note and come back with the design, because ultimately the contract, at least on the front end, all it's worrying about is the bones of these structures. And so that gives us plenty of time to kind of really iron out. And if you're committed to branding the way you want it branded, right? And to your point, like, I think as a whole, you should know when you're coming into the city, right? And as a whole, if you're committed to that and we have other resources that could enhance these bus stops, I think that's the way we go. So we'll come back with some designs. We'll incorporate everything that or as much of what you're saying tonight with either a singular design or multiple options, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
What's before you tonight really is essentially the structures, the actual structure of the bus stop that you're approving for the most part.
Yeah, and you know, just to kind of touch on what the mayor had brought up. I know he's not here, right? So I think he's important to this discussion. But you know, I think glass panels are, you know, they're bait for vandalism, right? So I fear the longevity for something like that. Also, the powder coat isn't vibrant, right? So if polycarbonate panels is something that we can decide kind of a la carte, right, and kind of add on, you know, I think that's a viable option.
I like that.
Right. So, you know, I'll entertain a motion at this point. What I will say is that the color is a free option, right? So I think if we can at least get consensus on the color, right, you know, and taking advantage of that being baked into whatever we receive, I think that will be helpful. It's just less work that we'll have to do whenever we add other modifications. So I do like the dark green personally, but, you know.
Good with the green.
Dark green.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we saying hunter green?
Yes, we're saying and just to be specific here, we're saying the color that's on the rendering on page 2 of the staff report, where it says proposed bus stop shelter, that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay,
Got
great.
it.
Make a motion, of course, with the caveat that we come back to the fact that the bus stop.
And that's a Telecu on Gage, and I'm sorry, Hugo, what was the other location?
Well, the Telecu and then the senior center over on Emile and Gage. This is what Councilwoman with
There you go.
the senior
Apartments.
on Gage, correct? Okay. All right, we're talking.
Yeah, it threw me off,
Oh,
so I wanted to clarify.
sorry about
just to
that.
Make sure.
Yes, senior apartments. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll second that.
To approve the color and staff recommendation? Are we saying that? The recommendation for 25 shelters under green polycarbonate panels?
I think, you know, I think
One and
if,
two.
Just the color.
I don't think we have to move on the polycarbonate panels. That's something we talk about after the fact, but yes.
Okay, so I will make a motion for the country green with the caveat that we come back to discuss each of those.
And I'll second that motion.
And staff's recommendation has 2 items here. It's the approval of 25 bus shelters and accessories and to declare the surplus property existing equipment. Are we also moving on that?
What?
Councilwoman, yes? Okay.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve per staff's recommendation with the caveat that we'll look into the locations that were just talked about and that the option of Hunter Green is selected for the bus shelters, right, and the trash receptacles. So we have a motion on the floor, and I think I heard a second.
Second, yes.
Okay, great. So I don't think we need a roll call. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
All right,
Great.
thank you.
Thank you, Claude. All right, so now we move on to item 15, Residential Parking Permit Program and Parking Tees Program. And today we have Director Abbas presenting.
Again, good evening, Vice Mayor and the Council. Again, this is Shahid Abbas, Director of Public Works. Early in July, the staff was tasked to craft a draft policy guideline for the residential parking permit program for the city. A draft policy is attached with your report, and today I shall briefly go over the main highlights of the proposed residential permit parking program. The highlights of the program are: parking by permit is a system that restricts street parking in a designated area to vehicles with special permits, typically issued to residents and authorized users only. The primary purpose is to reduce parking congestion caused by non-residents and prioritize curbside parking for residents, their guests, and authorized service providers in high-demand zones. This helps improve neighborhood quality of life and safety. Without a valid permit, parking in these restricted areas may result in citation or fine. Though the program has many benefits, it also presents few challenges. Parking may spill over to adjacent streets and neighborhoods, especially when it is done on a limited scale. There's a cost to manage and implement the program. There is also cost for the residents to obtain parking permits. Regular enforcement is required to maintain the effectiveness of the program, and a permit does not guarantee a parking spot. The city establishes specific geographic areas called permit parking zones or permit parking districts. Establishing the boundaries of permit parking districts will ensure that parking is not spilled over from one block or street to adjacent blocks or streets. The success of the program depends upon the demand and capacity. To establish the permit parking district, a parking study is initiated to find out the parking demand and the existing capacity on the streets. Generally, area with 75% or greater parking occupancy are considered suitable candidates for permanent parking. To establish the permanent parking program requires a city ordinance, and to establish a permanent parking district requires city council approval. Once the permanent parking district is established, permits for parking are issued to the residents, which allows them to park their vehicles on the street. Issuing a permit again does not guarantee a parking space. Guest and caregiver permits are also made available to the resident for short-term needs. The policy recommends 2 permits per household for the street parking, and the enforcement will be done through CSOs. The implementation process will follow as the resident sponsor will contact the Public Works Department with intent to petition the neighborhood for permanent parking program. To restrict the spillover of parking from one street to another, staff will establish the boundaries of the permanent parking zone. 75% of the residents in each block within the established zone should approve the program. On receipt of signed petition, staff will initiate a parking study. If the occupancy of the parking established zone is found to be 75% or greater, then the zone will be considered for implementation of the program. On completion of the study, Traffic Commission will review the request and make recommendation to the council. The council will finally establish the parking permit district or zone. The staff will conduct outreach and install the necessary signs and will issue the parking permits. The resident will apply for annual permits, and there is a limit of 2 permits per household, and the recommended cost for 1 permit is $40 per year. And the replacement cost for lost or stolen is $10 per permit. To receive a residential permit, the resident must submit the following documents: a filled-in application form, vehicle registration, proof of vehicle ownership or lease, and proof of residency. For caregiver permits, medical affidavit or proof of caregiver contract and vehicle information of the caregiver is required. Residents can request permits for the guest, which are issued and are valid for 24 hours. The proposed target neighborhoods are, for a pilot program, Bandini and Rosewood neighborhoods. The total estimated cost to install signs in these neighborhoods comes to about $120,000. The staff will try to reuse the existing post for the signs to reduce the cost. And there are approximately 400 signs that are required in both the neighborhoods. There are some other funding considerations, which are signage, administration, and preparation of a parking study, which are primarily the upfront costs. Permit fees will partially cover administration and ongoing program operation. Additional funding may also be required for CSO enforcements, and cost allocation for the program is required. Pursuant to the California Vehicle Code, a city ordinance is required to establish this program. Before I go over to the T program, we have a separate program presentation, which is reserving the street, marking the parking spots on the street. If the council has any questions on the parking permit program, I'll be more than happy to address those questions.
Okay, thank you, Shahid, for your presentation. Does the council have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do. Just really quick, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor. When you say Bandini and Rosewood area, can you be more specific into what part of that community we would, because that makes a big difference.
So
we're talking about permits.
So right now, we're talking only about permits. We also have information for the T markings, but essentially these would be there's still some activities that need to happen, like, for example, the main one is a new ordinance, right, that would allow for enforcement of these
got it.
activities. The city council has the discretion to direct us to say, yeah, we are, so before you, it's two decisions. You're interested in one or the other program or both? And where would you like to try this as a pilot program? The mayor's not here today, but he proposed, for example, not for the T markings, but for the permit parking, Commerce, Gilson to, what street, stop sign? Right out of the.
Harbor.
Commerce Way?
No, Commerce Way, Gilson.
Harbor.
Right, all the way up. So that big block, right? That's his proposal. I don't know if the city council wishes to do that. But essentially, what I think for tonight's purposes, I want you to understand the programs. I want you to understand all the different things that still need to happen to actually implement these. And then give us some proposed areas that we can then go back and kind of refine to see if it works, it doesn't work, right? But essentially, do we want to move forward with one or the other programs and propose locations, and we'll come back.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, just to make it easier.
I have a
right?
comment.
And if I may add, generally, if the parking occupancy is greater than 75%, those are the areas which are generally considered as a qualified candidate for these kinds of programs. So a study may be required to determine what is the parking part of it. And then we should also be careful if we go to the T program, this region may have a parking frequency, and we install this program, the vehicles may shift there. So that's why we need to do a study to make sure have a full district, so people are not prone to shifting from one location to another location or from one neighborhood to another neighborhood.
And Shahid, you've worked, you have extensive experience in this area. What have you seen have been the negative impacts and positive impacts of permit parkings in the residential areas in the last city that you worked in?
So I've been associated at least at 4 or 5 different programs in different cities, Mostly those cities, they have big universities, metro stations, traffic generated areas. The biggest concern which we receive, why we need to get a permit. Why can't the guests coming here, there's a hassle for them to come and get a permit. Their parties, birthday parties, they need a permit to park there. Those are the biggest concern with the resident. I have seen many locations, they go with the permit program, but then later on they change their mind because that's a hassle for the residents.
Okay. And if you move forward, the biggest issue of contention is going to be how many permits.
I was gonna be my second thing. I feel like, yes, there's this idea of parking permits are gonna eliminate the problem, but in reality, right? I mean, we have ADUs, we have, right, which we've approved. And so now what are we saying? Are we gonna, exactly what the city manager said, are we gonna limit the amount of parking permits? Now we have multi-generational homes, right? Where parents kids, college kids are coming back to live with their parents, right? And we actually, what do we say, right? Every time we're at a scholarship breakfast, come back and give to your community, right? Well, guess what? They're coming back and they're living in their homes, and there's homes with 4 or 5 cars. So what then, right? So I feel like we really, really, really have to consider what we're going to do in this situation. But thank you again.
And if I may say, we are recommending 75% support. I think that's quite a robust support. And before we really go implement, we do an outreach, talk to the resident, explain the pros and cons before they really buy into the program. So they're very clear what they're getting into the program. And we have done that. And generally, initially, that has been successful.
So, and I want to be clear that these programs, if you move forward with either or, there's usually a mechanism for some kind of, for example, neighbors say, I want it in my region, and you go through a voting process. And there's also the ability for the city council to designate areas in advance. So you have both options.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Garcia.
Thank you. Is it cost effective?
The program itself, in my experience, is highly subsidized because $40 per year per permit will not barely cover the cost of the program. I would say the cities I have worked with and the budget I had is more than 80% program is subsidized.
And do you feel that we have the personnel to be on top of it? That we will go this route with the permits? The personnel?
Yeah, I mean, it's an enforcement issue, right? And so our existing public safety staff will have to enforce this like they do other parking issues in the city.
Okay. That's a lot of planning ahead, right? Like coming to the city hall to get your permits for your visitors.
It is an arduous administrative process, both for the resident and for the city, right? I guess that's the decision the city council make, that the way the balance of that versus the need for parking, some kind of parking mitigation measure, right? Because what is true, right, in every community, you'll have a neighbor with 8 cars, 9 cars, right? Because the proposed tonight is 2 parking permits, and even that, you're talking about conceptually, right? The average home will have, at the very least, 2 cars they can park in the driveway. If they have a garage, another car, and then 2 on the street. So you're talking 5 cars, even with a 2 parking permit process. And to your point about the ADUs, if they're permitted ADUs, they have a approved dwelling unit, so they are entitled to 2 parking permits also, right? So, I mean, there's no easy guaranteed fix, right? The communities that have gone through these have gone to for a reason. They're trying to just, I mean, there's parts of this community that, I mean, we've heard from the residents, I mean, they almost, get into fistfights over parking, right?
Oh my God.
And they utilize trash cans to try to save parking. They follow the sweeper. I mean, there's a bunch of, that's not unique to this community, but, that's the reason that these programs exist. And for us, it's strictly a capacity issue, whereas I think Shahid mentioned, certainly where there's universities or high big uses, the residents don't want people parking there, so they have this need, right? Would you like us to go to the presentation on or the portion on the T markings?
Do you have any comments, or did that conclude your comments?
No, one more question. Do you foresee an issue like if there's only 2 parking permits given to the resident, will they take their parking somewhere else, and then would that create more issues somewhere else, do you think?
I've not seen, if we have a parking permit program, they will drive too far away. They'll still like to park within the walking distance, which is about 500 feet to 1,000 feet. That's what they like to park. So that's why we established our district, so make sure, we don't spill the parking from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. But the boundary streets, which will be adjacent to another district, they may still have some spillover parking to the next neighborhood.
My last question is, what would happen if we have handymen coming in? Like someone cleaning your house, someone's gonna do your roof, and how does that work? How would that work for them?
We said the caregiver and the servers and the contractor, we do have a provision for them, so they have to approach the city to get a permit for them in advance, so they can give them a permit.
You would have the same day permit?
Yeah, they have same day permit. There are 2 ways of working this one. There's some cities which will hand over the empty permits to the residents, and once their service contractor comes, they fill in the date and they hang it over. Rather than coming to the city, they give it to the contractor. But once it is filled, they cannot reuse the permit because it has a date stamped over that.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Argumedo.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Abbas, thank you for your presentation. Couple of questions just as I'm thinking about this, because I know it's been an ongoing discussion for some time and we've not moved forward with this. I like the idea of a pilot program, but with some changes. And the changes are, number one, for what period of time are we looking to implement this pilot program? What is the time frame that we're looking at?
So it is a costly program. Even for a pilot program, we have to establish the sign. I think at least pilot program, we should give like 1 year a chance to have a really clear. It will take them 6 months to learn about the program just to come to the town, and then the next 6 months will really be the test of that. So I would recommend not less than 12.
Okay, and I think that's reasonable, but with periods of review, meaning maybe, at least during that time, you should get at least 3 different reviews to see what we're finding out about the pilot program. The other part of it is that I think that we need to initially waive the fees of the pilot program, so that we give people an opportunity to adjust, letting them know this is just a pilot program that we're doing. We want to see how it works. But I also would like to put it in specific areas which we deem to be problematic areas. In particular, when it comes to your surrounding, unfortunately, it happens, and I've heard from many residents, and this is like where you're bordering with another city, and they cross over and they take your parking and they leave their cars there, and now they're complaining. Maybe the same happens the other way around. I'm not sure, but I don't think it happens as much as it does the other way around. So, for me, the pilot program needs to probably be implemented in the specific areas that have been a problem. And we need to put it there and see how it works. 2 areas that come to mind is Ferguson, and the other area is over in the Veterans Park area. That's the other area that we get a lot of, exactly. That's the area that we get a lot of complaints about, and we should focus in on putting it in those areas, or one of those areas as a pilot program, and waive the fees initially, but also letting the community know that if we move forward after the period of time that we implement it for as a pilot, and we want to move forward, that there is no way that we as a city can move forward to administer such a program without, making sure that people, there's going to be some fees associated with it and all of that. And then we'll report back to the community. Here's our findings. It looks like it seems to be working, not working. It was only a pilot program and maybe we do away with it. But we need to just be upfront with people so they don't have the expectation that you're going to implement a program that now we have to subsidize. And, so I get it, and I believe that your costs are pretty reasonable, but I absolutely agree and concur with the fact that you will not be able to manage a program like this, without additional costs. So those are just my comments, my suggestions related to a potential pilot program. If we move forward with something like this, you need to implement it in an area that has existing problems. And another area that comes to mind right now is, we'll get to that area later, because I already know that's going to be very problematic. But the village has been another area, and maybe we can start there. That would be the other area. And I know it's going to ruffle feathers, but look, we've been having issues, we've been having problems, and if you really want to see how it works, that would potentially be an area to implement it and see how it works. Needs some more work, I think, a little bit more input from the community, the proposed areas that we want to implement it in. Also, you don't just want to drop it in on them, and next thing you know, we're going to have this chamber filled with members of the community. They have to get an understanding of what we're proposing to do, why we're planning on doing it, and explaining all of this to the community, and then moving forward with something along these lines.
Yeah, we can do that. So we checked the cost here in the surrounding area. The lowest cost which I found is $34. The highest cost was $80. And even within the city, from one district to another district, cost varies depending upon what are their demand here. Yes, we can definitely go and do a study of the proposed location, and then go and do the public outreach, explain the program to the public, and then implement the pilot program. And I may also say I received a couple of phone calls where I find the residents are very excited. Why not my street or my area? When they saw those two, Bandini and Rosewood Park.
Yeah. So those are my comments. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Good comments. I think good comments by all of my colleagues here. Shahid, thank you for presenting. I know there's more to the presentation. Just my thoughts, to Councilwoman Rebollo's point, I think we have a lot of households with growing families and a lot of cars, right? So the initial issuance of 2 permits per household, it's going to be tough. It's going to be problematic. I know some cities do 4 permits per household. I think we maybe need to do an assessment if we do move forward with something like this to see what other neighboring cities are doing. I think there's Bell Gardens, there's Cudahy, there's La Mirada, who I think has parking permit zones. Even Culver City, right? There's several. So I think in keeping in mind that cost of living is so high here in Southern California, and a lot of people are staying home as much as they can, right? Before they venture out into their own. I think it's important to factor that in. Two permits just won't do it. It just won't, so.
Just to follow up, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to also follow up in previous discussions related to problems. City manager, in the past, I believe that I mentioned about the possibility of allowing people to utilize their driveways to park vehicles, easing those restrictions. As long as you're the owner of those properties, that opens up how many homes we have in the community, I've mailed out plenty of stuff, and I can tell you it's about a little over 3,000, I believe. But, that opens up a lot of parking spots. And all we need is to direct our staff, say, hey, if you're using a parking spot and you have a driveway, you can go ahead and use it. Basically, we're creating additional parking spots where there isn't any. And the only way would then be for somebody to get ticketed is if somebody parks on your driveway and they're not, they did it illegally, they didn't get your permission, that sort of thing, where you can then cite them and get them towed if necessary. But that would create a lot of opportunities, I think, to alleviate some of the issues that we have with parking. I've mentioned that before. I don't know if we've taken any action, but I think that would be a big help. There was one other item that I had suggested I know what it was. It was the, sometimes you park on the driveway, of your garage, but your car sticks out a little bit. And our staff will go out and, they could, because now you're blocking a little bit of the right of way, the public right of way. But, hey, this is where we need to use a little bit of discretion, in my opinion, because sometimes there's construction going on. There's, just with the street cleaning, hey, I can't find a place to park, and you use your driveway, even though your vehicle sticks out a little bit. Come on, use a little bit of discretion, guys. It's a street cleaning day. It's a little bit tough to get parking out there. That also creates a lot of opportunities for people to be able to utilize, create additional parking spots in essence. So we should take that into consideration as we move forward to see how we can maybe, implement some of these things to make additional parking spaces available.
So we can incorporate that into the follow-up presentation to this by, and again, I think you would, unless the city council would want to do that citywide, you would pick an area where you want to try that out, right, and see how that goes. Because I think the issue really similar to the enforcement would be you park in a driveway. We don't know if it's a resident or not. We would depend solely on the complaint, right? And so how fast we're able to address that. So I think a pilot program would be appropriate, and we can select a specific area that we'd like to try that. Right. Now, long-term, we'd have to do an ordinance change, right? To allow people to park right in front of the driveway. Yeah, you'd have to, it'd be similar to the other process, but certainly when we bring this back, we can incorporate that as a pilot program also.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be great. And if you can even provide some numbers for us based on the number of homes in the community that have driveways, you can then assess, hey, how many parking spots would actually be created by doing that. Not to mention the driveways, so again, we're creating potential parking spots where there isn't. We're already built out, you can't create any more unless you redesign some of these streets, versus the parallel parking, and you change some of these streets, you can create additional parking where you do like a, what is it? Some of these streets that you have in other areas where you come in and park, at an angle, there's a lot of opportunities where you can do some of that, so that would be another way of doing it, in creating additional parking spaces. That's it. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so I'll continue with my comments just real quick. So I think that could be a good stopgap, right? I think we really have to ask ourselves, what's the issue that we're trying to solve, right? If the issue is outsiders coming in, right? Events happening, and then all your parking spaces being taken up on your street, then I think a permit parking program would be the solution. But if the issue is maybe trying to maximize, right, the amount of spaces that we have, right, if it's inefficient parking, like whether it's double parking, people saving spaces for others, people partially blocking driveways, I think T markings or parking Ts are the solution. And I know it's something that I've spoken about a little bit over the course of the past couple of years, but I also think it's a low barrier of entry to implement, much lower than a permit parking program. I just think with permit parking, I think it could be helpful in some areas, but I think it is going to ruffle some feathers. And regardless of what we move forward with, I think it has to start with community outreach. I think we have to talk to the people in those streets, right, in those areas, and ask them what they think, right? Because, I don't as a council want to make a unilateral decision and say, hey, like, this needs to happen here, right? And without at least letting people know about it first. So, but I know you're going to walk through the Parking Tees program, and I'm interested to see what your findings are here.
And if I may say, once we do this outright, we identify the area. Once we do the study, we'll go and find the occupancy on the street, and we'll also see the driveways and what is the capacity in the driveways. And at that point in the outreach, the resident will suggest whether they need 2 permits and 4 permits, and then we'll come back with the feedback. But that will all be part of this program. So the good thing about the T program, the city already has a ordinance which authorizes city manager, the director of public works, to install and maintain parking spaces, which also cover the parking T markers. So a parking T marker is a T-shaped pavement marking which is used to delineate individual parallel parking spaces on the streets. Designated parking spaces provides orderly parking, enhance parking efficiency, and improves overall traffic safety, because we can keep the safe distance from the crosswalk, sight distance, and the fire hydrants. And some of the challenges of the program are, it requires ongoing enforcement to be effective, regular maintenance to keep the markings visible, installation, maintenance, and enforcement cost to the program. Under certain circumstances, T marking may reduce available parking on the street. And why I say so, once we do a T marking, we have to follow the state standards. And where there are 2 cars, especially once the driveways are too close, which is a case mostly on our properties, where 2 cars can squeeze in for the parking. Once we do the standard T marking, 2 cars cannot park in those spaces. I've been to a couple of the spaces. I saw 2 car parks between the driveways, and they were crouching onto the aprons of the driveway, which will be illegal once we do the T mark. The Public Works Director is authorized to designate public parking spaces using parking T markers in areas with inefficient on-street parking or congestion, especially within the residential neighborhoods. Request for T marking may come from a resident petition or can be installed at the discretion of the director, especially in the high-demand zones such as parks, public facilities, or business districts. The petition will require a support of 75% or more from the property owners. Proposed installation will undergo a 15 days public notice and comment period, and then a post-installation evaluation will follow. And if we find the T markings are not successful and no longer needed, they can be removed. These are the specifications given in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. While doing so, we have to maintain these specifications, and CVC code requires us to follow the design specification while doing the marking spaces. And if you take these specifications, if I use these specifications, then many of the driveways and the space in between will lose one parking. And the estimated cost, which staff has estimated, if we use paint, which probably most of our street will qualify for a paint, not for a thermoplastic, it will cost anywhere about $3,500 per block. And instead of hiring a contractor, I checked with my staff, if we buy a machine, we can do it ourselves, And that machine will cost us $9,000 to $10,000, and we keep it with us, and we can use it later also. So the next step is at the discretion of council, at the direction of the council, we have to draft an ordinance for resident permanent parking, because that's a requirement of CVC. Without that, we'll not be able to enforce that. And then return back to the council with adoption of a final policy for the pilot programs and the permanent markings, and then request for funding allocation at a later date. That concludes my presentation. If you have any question on the T marking.
Thank you, Shahid. Any questions or comments from the council?
I mean, no, I think the T marks are something that, Vice Mayor has been talking about for a long time, and I know Sergeant can corroborate, right? There's a huge pocket of community members in the Bristol area that asked to meet with us, and that was one of the things that we discussed, right? Was people not parking the way they should park, and people putting trash cans to save parkings. I know that it is the same issue in the Pacific neighborhood, right, where people are not courteous to their neighbors and parking where they shouldn't be parking, or parking 3 or 4 cars that don't even belong to them, right? So I think those are the parking is such a big issue here in the state of Congress, right? But I think like the low-hanging fruit, right, is the T marking. Yes, it still allows people to park, but now you have to park properly, which instead of maybe fitting only 2 cars, now you're going to fit 2, 3, or 4, right? Because unfortunately, people are not courteous, or they're not using common sense. And I think a lot of our issues will be solved with just parking correctly, and that's where we have the T marks, right? Sometimes people will ask, well, why can't you give them a ticket for, parking in a way where they can't allow 2 or 3 cars? Well, now we can, because now there's going to be marking, right? So I think that's the low-hanging fruit. I think there should be a consideration. I'm not ready to make a decision on the permit parking because I'm just 50-50 on it. But I think the T marking is a good start, because it will make sure people are parking the way they're supposed to be. And we're going to get to see, right, how much time are we taking? How many staff is it taking to make sure that, we're giving out to whatever the situation may be, right? But I think that's the low-hanging fruit. That's less money, more cost-effective. And we already have pockets of the neighborhood that, have called us about it. I mean, they've called about permit parking too, but I think that's for us.
Thank you for your comments, Councilwoman. Any other comments?
Thank you for the presentation again. Again, we're talking a pilot program, correct? In a specific area?
Pilot program for up to a year in the whatever area the city council wishes to designate. We give them some recommendations, so if you're, are you talking about permit or the T markings?
I'm talking about the T markings. Again, that's a pilot program for a specific area, and we need to identify what that area is. We're not talking about implementing it citywide, is that correct?
Correct. Right.
Okay, and have we designated the proposed area?
So what I surveyed, I've been to Rosewood Park as a neighborhood, and I've been to Bristol. I think both of them will qualify for both the program. You know, they're complementary to each other. There's enough parking, which I see on the streets, you know, which require early parking. But again, my experience is limited. I've done a couple of days survey. If the council wish to identify other areas beyond that, we'll go back and survey and report back. But those are my initial thoughts on those.
All right.
Both of them.
My recommendation is to definitely move forward with a pilot program on that, with the T markings. A designated area, I think, you know, again, we need to identify the area and say, hey, look, let's implement it here. And let's monitor and let's see how it works. Again, the community outreach also needs to be a big part of it, which already has been covered. And I would recommend that we absolutely spend the money to buy the equipment and do it ourselves, which would be a lot more cost effective. And if we need to restripe or whatever, we can always redo it and not re-spend the money again. I think that would probably be the best way to do that.
So right now, so far, we're not listening to the rest of the comments. We're talking only about T markings, and we're talking specifically in the Rosewood and Bristol area. We will come back and refine what exactly, the exact area that we're talking about. But that's where we're at so far. So, just to be clear, go ahead. Vice Mayor.
That was it, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. I echo most of my colleagues' sentiments here, right? You know, we've talked about the T markings, and I'm glad this is being brought in front of us. The thing with this, it's much easier to implement, right? I don't think we need to take the time to develop a very robust program like we would have to do with a permit parking program. And, you know, I think this helps address some of the issues, particularly in the Bristow community. And the area that I'm thinking about is along Triggs, at least for now, between maybe McDonald and Mariana. And I say that because, you know, there's just a lot of parking issues around that area. I think you have some oversized vehicles as well, which is something that these T markings would also help identify, right? You know, a lot of big trucks, and I get a lot of complaints just from residents just, you know, saying, why are these huge trucks here? Why aren't we enforcing on them? And I think this would just make it a lot easier to look at something like that. I would appreciate maybe like an initial assessment just to make sure, like, by doing T markings, we're not reducing parking. In most cases, we will maximize, right? But I feel like if we did T markings in a small street, like, let's say somewhere in the Bandini area, where people are already parked very close together, T markings may actually be counterproductive, right? Yeah. So I think, you know, to be a prime candidate, in my opinion, I would like staff to sign off on that. But I agree. I think we do need to move forward with the equipment and prepare ourselves to actually start implementing these.
Okay, so if there's no further comments, I think we have the direction we need. And you're absolutely right. The one negative about T markings is it can reduce parking. You know, from a squarely, like a linear standpoint, at least.
Yeah. I think we just have to be strategic and thoughtful about where we implement it, because I think it will help in the on Triggs, right? But, you know, if we can just kind of have that blessing from staff, and then we go for it.
Right. So again, we'll come back with some, as a follow-up report with more refined map essentially of the areas where we are proposing after doing exactly what you're saying now.
Okay. Great. So,
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, can I?
Sure, Councilwoman.
You mentioned the Rosewood area, but in my comment, I mentioned the problem was more, I mean, I guess we have a problem everywhere, but I think that we should start with smaller areas. So like Pacific area, Pacific Emo Montrose, that area. I think would be a better candidate because it's smaller. And as mentioned by Councilmember Argumedo, we're having the issues of people from the neighboring city coming in. Now, permit parking would probably address it, right? But I think also if we do the T markings, it would alleviate a lot of the issues that are happening here. So the only reason why I say that is because I think we should pick 2 smaller pockets as a pilot, and then once it works, then move on to the bigger area.
I think, great comments. I agree. I think let staff take that back, right? Run an assessment. I think the direction or the suggestion from the city manager was to, you'll come back with a subsequent report, just kind of with an assessment on which streets we're actually recommending, and that's where we'll go ahead and implement the action or decide against it, right? Depending on how the council votes.
We mentioned the roadway areas. What I'm mentioning is the roadway area is too vast. I think we should choose one of the Pacific area or Veterans area. Others and then like little pockets, right? More specific. I get that. That's where I'm coming from.
I mean, because we're not deciding the actual areas tonight, what I could do is bring proposals for all 3 areas. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. So thank you, Shahid, for the presentation. I believe this is a receive and file. So I think at this point you have the information from the council. And so we'll stay tuned for another presentation.
Thank you so much.
Ready?
Move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor, Member City Council, the next item is also a follow-up staff report to a previously discussed art security project at the pool. And I think it's, the council gave direction to staff, and so this is a follow-up to that direction.
Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. We're bringing back the decorative gate project for the Brenda Villa Aquatic Center for your review and final approval. At your May 27th meeting, you reviewed designs by artist James Nash, who's also here this evening. And if we can go to the next slide. And the next slide. And at that time, council expressed interest in fences 1 and 2 and directed staff to return with additional designs that incorporated more of a community and family focus. In response, the artist has prepared fence 3 and 4. Next slide, please. Thank you. Which highlight children, families, and residents of all ages enjoying the pool. Together, these designs balance the competitive tradition of the Aquatic Center with its role as a community gathering place. Tonight, we are asking for your approval so that we can move forward with the fabrication and installation. These panels will not only enhance safety and security, but also serve as public art that reflects the spirit of our city. At this time, I welcome any questions or comments for myself or James Nash, who's here.
Thank you for that presentation, Adolfo. Does the council have any questions at this time? Okay, I think just a question from my end. What if there are issues with the fence? What if they're vandalized? I mean, they're highly customized, right? So how can we approach the repair if something like that were to happen?
So they are handcrafted, and the 138,000 is for the creation and installation. If they should be vandalized, that would be an additional cost, and we would have to come. Although I would have to say that the gate itself is, what would you say, James? Pretty safe and.
Yeah, no one will be able to. Good evening. No one will be able to break or remove it by hand, anything. Graffiti could be a problem, but paint can handle that.
Okay.
But in terms of, it's not going to be something very delicate that can just be broken. I mean, if someone wants to come with a grinder and start cutting it, then they can do that, but they can do that to many things.
Sure, but your point is they're not fragile.
Not at all. No, I've done about 15 years of public art, and so far everything is held up.
Okay, thank you. City Manager?
So Mayor, just, do you have the other two?
Yes.
No, the original two.
Yeah, they're fence 1 and 2.
Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't see that. Kevin's too fast for me. So we had talked about fence 1, fence 2 being on the side facing the park, and then the two new renderings on the side facing the parking lot towards Eastern. So if that's still the will of the council, I just want to make sure, like, we're really clear about what we want and what.
Okay, thank you for that. If no comments at this time, do you have any comments? If no comments at this time, do you have a comment, Councilwoman Garcia? Oh, sorry. If no comments, and at this point, I'll entertain a motion or direction.
Second.
Do you need
Is there a motion?
clear motion, legal counsel?
Recommendation. I'm wondering if there was actually a selection made, like,
No.
is there a,
So yeah, the recommendation is fence 1, fence 2, fence 1 swimming, fence 2 water polo, preference senior. And then,
Fence 3 and 4 would be the plain
yeah,
and
that's
swimming.
the motion.
Okay, and we're clear on which fences are going in which locations?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm okay with it. Is it yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's my motion.
Okay.
I second that.
Okay, at this point, why don't we go ahead and take a vote, right? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Sounds like we have some fences. Motion
All
passes.
right, thank you very much.
Okay, so that now takes us to item number 17, which we'll go ahead and continue to the
Thank
next
you.
meeting.
Yes.
And so at this point, we'll move on to item number 18, which is the introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending Commerce Municipal Code Title 5, Chapter 5.48, relating to card club point holders' minimum interest. And we have Director Serrano presenting today.
Yes, good evening, Vice Mayor Lainez, members of the City Council. This is an introduction and first reading of an ordinance to amend the Commerce Municipal Code regarding card club point holders' minimum interest. The city received this request from the casino to enable the card club owners to transfer ownership to heirs and to other individuals. The proposal is to amend the point holder minimum interest from 1/4 to 1/8 minimum interest to provide flexibility in ownership of the casino and delete Commerce Municipal Code Section 5.48.292, since this is a repetitive code section in our code. This proposed amendment represents an opportunity for City Council to revisit the established rules and ensure that the regulatory requirements align with the casino's needs and also the community's needs. This concludes my presentation. I'm available, as well as Joy Harn. She's the legal counsel for the casino.
Okay, thank you for that. And given that this is a public hearing, at this time, I would like to open the public hearing.
No.
I'm sorry, this is not a public hearing. This is,
That's what it's listed as on the agenda?
this is just a regular ordinance that's not a part of the planning zoning code, so this should have just gone under regular,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just going by the agenda, so,
Got you.
yeah.
No, I saw it in the staff report and I changed it to regular, but I didn't.
Okay, so I will retract opening the public hearing. And at this time, does the council have any questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, yes, I just have a question to legal counsel. Since it was printed on the agenda as a public hearing, are you saying it's okay? We're not gonna have issues?
Yeah, it's fine, because I doubt that there was a publication in the, no, this,
Just the agenda was printed wrong, basically?
yes, the
Okay.
heading of the agenda was printed wrong, but
Yeah,
this,
we need to be very careful about those types of situations. Thank you, so much, counsel. No, special counsel, legal counsel. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councilwoman Rebollo. Any other questions or comments? Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the staff recommendation.
Okay. Let's do a roll call for this one.
Councilmember Argumedo,
Yes.
Councilmember Garcia,
Yes.
Councilmember Ibur, and Vice Mayor Lainez.
Yes.
And I'll read the title of the ordinance. An ordinance of the City of Commerce, California, amending Commerce Municipal Code, Title 5, Chapter 5.48, relating to Card Club point holders' minimum interest.
Okay, thank you for that. That concludes our items, so now we'll move on to City Council reports. I'll start to my right. Councilmember Argumedo?
Thank you. I'll keep it short. Just want to commend our staff for the great work that they did with regards to the backpack giveaway that was took place over at Bristol Park. Great work, good turnout, very well attended, and I think our staff did a great job in supporting that effort. So congratulations, and a lot of happy kids, a lot of families out there. That was very nice. Also, of course, our National Night Out item, thanks to all of our staff who participated and made that event such a great success. I think everybody was pretty pleased and happy. It's my understanding we had over 500 hamburgers, I guess. Everybody did a great job putting everything away. And I know I had enjoyed a couple of, I had two, I think, so. But anyways, just overall, I think the amount of people that showed up to the event and had a great time, thanks to our Sheriff's Department for the role they played in getting a helicopter out there. It was well enjoyed by everybody that was there. And just our fire department staff and just all of our support staff that was out there. Great event and well enjoyed by the community. So thank you all for making it a big success. Thank you. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you, Councilmember Argumedo. Councilwoman Rebollo?
I'll try to be as brief as possible. I just wanted to congratulate the Aces. I didn't get to congratulate them at the last meeting. They played at a really big tournament in San Diego. I wanted to congratulate them for a great season. I wasn't able to attend the banquet, but you know, there's been players that have been playing with the Aces from like the 8U all the way till this last season, where they aged out and are now playing in high school. So congratulations to those players that stuck with the program from its initiation, from its beginning stages to they aged out. And congratulations to the Aces for a great season, for all the coaches, to all of our travel sports the kids are out there just working really, really hard, to our dance team and Unplugged. It was a great summer, so thank you to all the staff that made this summer just really amazing for the City of Commerce, Parks and Rec, Library, but you know, it's not just them, it's everybody that supports these programs, the residents and public works staff, right, that are constantly there making sure that our parks are clean and safe maintenance. So all these programs don't happen in the summer without a whole team around them. So thank you to everyone for such a great summer. To the senior center as well. I wasn't able to attend many meetings or events there, but I know the seniors had a great summer as well. So I'm looking forward to the fall and the spring. That was it. Thank you everyone, and have a very good night.
Thank you for your report, Councilwoman Garcia.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I just want to give a shout out to Lorena from Bristol staff. I've been attending her body strengthening class, and it's been very hard for me because I haven't worked out in a long time. So good job. I'm going to continue to go and see how strong I get. Also, Vice Mayor, if it's okay with you, to adjourn this meeting tonight for Richard Correa, who is a World War II veteran who passed away recently. Thank you. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and of course, we will adjourn in his honor. Not a whole lot to report. Was driving around and I see some great progress on the artwork on the 710 underpass along Triggs. It's looking great. They've done the interior and they're starting to do some of the work on the exterior of both sides of the bridges. So it's looking good so far. I'm excited to see how that'll turn out. And I drive down Atlantic, and little by little, it's looking more and more like the Bandini Library and Learning Center is coming a reality. I saw the name go up not too long ago, so excited about that. Hopefully we'll get to open that soon and provide that much needed resource to that community. I think it was a great summer, so I want to thank all of our staff for just all of the work that they did to provide such a high level of service. But over the last couple of weeks, I've been thinking it's been really hot, right? So I do want to thank our public works teams and our parks and rec teams that are out there on the field. Any city staff that's out there, out on the field, right? Thank you. It's been hot, borderline unbearable, at least for me. And so really thank you all for all the work that you're doing. With that said, I will adjourn today's meeting in memory of Richard Correa, Commerce resident. Thank you, and meeting adjourned.